9 million unprotected acres, flanked by 14 million acres of national park and wildlife refuge. 3,000 rivers and streams, migration routes for big game, including the largest caribou herd left in North America. Clean water, threatened fisheries, nesting grounds for migratory birds from as far away as South America. One of the last intact ecological zones of its size in the world, without a single straight line by the ham hands of man. When is a road more than just a road?
President Trump has reversed a Biden-era decision on a major mining operation in Alaska that will unleash critical minerals and an economic gold mine.
Deep in the interior of Alaska, there's a mining region called Ambler. There's a 211-mile gravel road proposed to get to this area to help unleash over 1,700 mining claims, some of them over 100 years old.
If I was an indigenous person, in Northwest Alaska, I would be terrified and I would be infuriated.
Us, we don't take no crap, man.
The miners don't get rich. The guy with the big money that's going to put the money on it, he gets rich.
Welcome back to another episode of Days on the Land podcast. I've been pretty busy. I haven't had any episodes out lately because I've been up in the Arctic on a solo trip to see where the Ambler Road is going to actually cross and intersect with some of the America's wild and scenic rivers. More of that adventure will be coming in future episodes on the YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for that. And I've also been taking down some of these interviews with these two guys. Today we're talking with a couple of local Inupiaq Eskimos who live around the Ambler Road. One is more optimistic about it, and the other one not so much. I'm also going to have a few clips from an interview I did with a ex-wildlife biologist for the state of Alaska. I'm going to let that interview with him, though, stand alone because it's pretty long, and honestly, it doesn't deserve to be chopped up. Listen if you're in your car, but as you know, there will be some visuals here and there, so maybe circle back around and check it out on YouTube. If you're not already subscribed, I recommend you take your greasy finger and bang those buttons down below for 100% certified AI-free amateur dipshittery outdoor content. All right, let's get into it. We'll start with Lance Kramer. This bit about your adventure business really dovetails nicely into what I wanted to talk about. And one of the reasons I originally reached out was to get your opinion about the Ambler Road. Sound
You
good?
bet. So some folks maybe might not know about the Ambler Mining District and the the Ambler Access Project, it's called. So the Ambler Mining District is a big district, not just one mine, right? But there's just a plethora of opportunities for precious metals, cobalt, zinc, cadmium, copper, things like that, things needed for green energy. And so Ambler is about maybe 200 miles east of Kotzebue inland up on the Kobuk River.
Mm-hmm.
Very beautiful. There's Ambler, Shungnak, and Kobuk. I guess you can call it the tri-village area because there's three villages up there. I'm guessing Ambler has 420 people. Shungnak maybe 380, Kobuk maybe 280, something like that. Not exactly sure, but it's around that number. But those three villages, because they're so far up the river, the only way that they can get food into them and gas and oil and whatnot is through sometimes barges in the summer if the water's high enough, and then mostly flying. And so like even right now, there's obviously no barges. It's wintertime. The river was ice. And so they have to fly everything in. Even here in Kotzebue is a hub city, right? And we have 2 flights a day. Alaska Airlines 747s come up to Kotz. Our milk is $10 a gallon. Our gas is $8.50 a gallon. A DiGiorno's pizza at our AC store in the hub city Kotzebue is $30. A frozen turkey's $99 at AC right now. Frozen turkey, a butterball. You might go to your Walmart there in Denver or whatever, right? And it might be $36 or $30. But for us here in Kotz, it's $99. Now, imagine now Bering Air has to fly it to Kobuk and to Shungnak and to Ambler, and it's going to cost extra. And so they pay just crazy, crazy prices for food and for fuel. Even just this winter, there was an elder who posted on Facebook her bill for 1 drum of stove oil, and it was $875 for 53 gallons of heating fuel for her house. And that's only going to
Wow.
last in Ambler's cold country, so that'll only last about between 20 and 30 days. 875 bucks, a retired old lady, an elder, not, no working, no whatever. 875 for 1 drum. That's just stove oil. We're not even talking about food. We're not talking about internet. We're not talking about anything. But for those people up there, I just don't know how they can sustain that. You know what I mean? I don't know how they can sustain living that way because even to go subsist and to get geese and beavers and caribou and moose and whatever, it takes a snow machine and it takes gasoline. Their gasoline up there is like 18 bucks a gallon. 18 a gallon. And then I think one village is 16 a gallon. That's insane. $16 a gallon, right? And
That's
then
really expensive. That's unsustainable and unaffordable. Well, who's on the hook supposedly for the cost of the road? Is it the state of Alaska?
no, no. What's happening so for example, we'll take the Red Dog mine. A lot of
Hmm.
people have heard about the Red Dog mine with Teck and with Nano Regional Corporation. 100 miles north of Kotzebue is the world's second largest lead and zinc mine.
Okay, I'm going to interject here for just a second. Lance and I got into the weeds on some pretty wonky stuff, but the takeaway is that the state of Alaska is supposed to be, and the feds are supposed to be getting paid back through tolls on the road. So they're essentially going to be putting up the money for the road, it sounds like. So the taxpayers and the mining companies are supposed to be paying us back. Who knows if that's even going to happen? They haven't even gotten an agreement out that says the profits and the ore will be used here in the United States. Right now, it looks like it's going to be trucked to Fairbanks, then put on a train all the way to Anchorage, and then from Anchorage to China to get smelted and turned into other materials to be sold back to us. So kind of a losing situation, all for a few thousand jobs at the most, just for not even long-term jobs. So that's the gist of that. We're going to hear more about the Red Dog mine and its effect on the caribou when we hear some clips from my interview with Jim Dow and at the end of this. So stick around for that. All right, let's get back into it.
Yeah, the Trump administration gave 55 million bucks or something to Trilogy to help them finish exploring Arctic and Bornite.
Right, so that's
But even
federal
then,
money, but still that's federal money that's going into
yep,
the project. So my
yep,
concern is that eventually Alaska is going to probably put some money in. How are you going to justify keeping it to industrial access only, especially after the mines have shut down, the road still exists? Then
yep.
are you going to pay to remove the road, reclaim it, or are you going to keep it open? And if it connects to those three villages, they're not going to want to shut it down because,
Yep,
like you said, um, the cost to bring goods in by airplane and barge is so high. When they could
yep,
truck it in, they could cut their cost in half, and they're going to lobby
yep,
to do that. And then
yeah,
that is going to open it up to hunters coming in from Fairbanks and Anchorage, and you're
yeah,
going to have this contiguous span of one of the last true wildernesses in the U.S. cut in half, almost all the way to
yeah.
Kotzebue.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of things. Number one, ownership of land along the 211 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So the first section, 23 miles, is BLM land.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, Biden put a padlock on there
Yep.
and said, ain't gonna happen. And then the next section is Doyon land, Native Corporation land,
Mm-hmm.
right? And those people are like Nana. They're like, heck no, industrial access only. They don't want anybody else on their land. So that's
Right.
a big, big, strong padlock right there. You know what I mean? They have their own padlock and you ain't breaking it. Like
Okay.
you can't keep going from the Dalton. You can't keep going unless you got to go through the Doyon people. That's a big padlock. So even though Trump has unlocked the Biden padlock,
Mm-hmm.
right? The first 23 miles or whatever, you're going to go to this little roadblock right there. You're going to go to that Doyon gate, and there's going to be officers there, right? And they're going to be, sorry, turn back around. You're not going through our land. This is
Yeah.
our land. So anyways, the next one is state land. Next one is Gates of the Arctic National Park or whatever.
Yep.
And then the last one over here is Nanoland, 23 miles or whatever. And that's a padlock on our side. Some of our people are even worried that people are going to go on Nanoland and hunt. And we're like, no, there's going to be a gate at the beginning of our land. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? We're going to employ our own officers.
So you're talking
And
about actual physical gates, not just legal
yep,
gates.
nope,
I mean,
physical
both, but
gates.
an actual
Yep.
physical gate.
So what's going to happen is that you will have industrial access only, commercial vehicles only. Nana, Doyon, and all them will have their own trucking companies. Those are
Right.
commercial companies. And so their own Nana Fuel Company will have a truck, and they'll constantly be bringing fuel to the mine for the mine. They'll constantly be
Okay.
bringing fuel to the villages. And like you said, that fuel, instead of $16 a gallon, will go down to $4.50 a gallon. And they'll be
Okay.
like, hallelujah, I can go
Right.
hunting again.
Okay.
And so
All right.
now, yeah. So
So,
that's the take on that.
all right. So that was a brilliant explanation of it all, and I appreciate that. But there's a couple other issues around this that I think matter to outdoorsmen, people like us who value nature. And one of those is the environmental cost. What do you think about the environmental cost? Because I've heard that, like, say, Red Dog Mine, to circle back around to that example, the tailings, the wind picks up those tailings from those tailings ponds and has blown lead all over the area, to the point where some of the fish, at least I've heard, maybe you can bat this down if it's not true, but some of the fish, you can't eat the livers in the fish anymore because they're full of lead. So how are you guys proposing to, I don't know, secure the
Yeah.
viability of the land and the watershed? There's like 3,000 streams and rivers that they've got to cross.
Yeah. Well, like I said, Tech and Nana have a very good subsistence committee,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all locals from Notak and Kivalina. That's who's on that subsistence committee. There ain't no Kotzebue, there ain't no Norvik. It's Kivalina, who's downstream on the Wooluk River from the
Yep.
mine, right? And it's Notak. And so those folks are the ones, what do you call it? The eyes and the ears of everything Red Dog. There's a big reclamation plan going on right now between Nana and Tech, but everything environmentally is fine. There has been one issue as of late, and that issue is SO2. I don't know if you guys have some SO2 issues there, but it's
What is
like when
SO2?
those hand warmers, you
Mm-hmm.
get hand warmers from the store, and you open it and then you break it up, and then it's nice and hot. Well, that's that iron sulfide. You got iron and you got sulfur, and they mix and whatnot, and
Mm-hmm.
creates this chemical reaction, this heat. Well, the further down this Uckaluk pit you go, the more iron you're going to get. That's just how it is. It's a heavy metal. And so the further down you go digging, the more iron you're going to have in your waste rock pile, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in your waste rock pile, you've got iron, lots of heavy duty iron, and you've got sulfur. And then now in your waste rock pile, which is actually the whole side of a hill, it's smoking everywhere like a volcano. And it's emitting sulfur dioxide, SO2. Because if it mixes with oxygen, that's when that iron and that sulfur, get together and have a party.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to cover that with silt to where it's not going to get oxidized. But the issue, especially this winter, is that the cold air forces that the SO2, that that smoke that's coming up like a volcano, and it's
Mm-hmm.
forcing it down into the camp where the people are. The
Right.
cold air forces it down there to that low spot in the
Yeah.
valley, right to the headquarters. And so now everybody has to wear masks, and people have runny noses. They still have runny noses, even when they go home. Their nose runs.
Well,
You know
that
what I
does
mean?
not
Or
sound
or their
good.
or their throat, burns. And so they're doing the protocols necessary, even above and beyond what OSHA and all of them demand, uh, Tech and Nana,
Mm-hmm.
with masks and with respirators and with warnings things. They have these things that test the air and whatnot. I think that after winter, we're kind of in the clear now because it's not cold air pushing that down anymore.
Okay.
But still, that's one of the big things that I wouldn't say was overlooked, because
Yeah.
it did happen before. It did
Mm-hmm.
happen before. It's just one of those things that you didn't see coming quite so much.
Right. Okay.
So
So essentially, what you're telling me is that you think there's going to be an ironclad oversight of any industrial waste fallout from these mines, and you're just hoping that it's going to be as good as it has been with the Red Dog mine.
I think so. When you look at Trilogy and South 32,
Mm-hmm.
South 32 is an incredible company. I actually think they're better than Tech, in terms of responsibility to the environment.
So then, I guess my last question about this is, it sounds to me like what you're telling me is that the overall attitude of the locals in the villages in Kotzebue is that they're not as worried about breaking up the wilderness with a industrial mining road. I mean, that's one of the things that comes to mind for me is, how is this going to change? Well, like we talked about earlier, how is this going to change that experience for everybody out there and the people that visit?
Mhm.
When you have an industrial mining road, it does, it's bound to take away some of that, that, I forget how did we phrase it? Some of that, the magic, of
Yeah.
being out there. Now, granted, there's a lot of places you can go and not see that and not be near it. Um, but I just worry how that's going to affect it. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess if you were to fly over the whole Northwest Arctic, that area is a very small area.
Yeah,
Even the road, it's a single lane road. It's not a
yeah,
two-lane road. It's not taking up a lot of space.
Now, I want to point out that I've read that this road will be anywhere from 2 lanes wide to up to 500 feet wide, which would be a massive footprint. So I kind of disagree with Lance on this. And by Doug Bergham's own admission, there is up to, or if not more than 1,700 different mining claims out there. So when you factor all that in, there's going to be a lot of spur roads. There's going to be quite a bit of traffic in and out of there, branching off from the main stem of the road. It's going to be more than just a little footprint of a single lane dirt road.
And so I think that the benefits to the people up here, if it's done right,
mm-hmm.
will totally outweigh, you know, anything
Okay,
negative, because I think that they are going to mitigate very highly. That's the difference between us and other areas, maybe,
yeah,
is that Barrow people, the Inupiaq people in Barrow at ASRC, you know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? They're like the Maori people of New Zealand, like the Hakka people. Like, you just don't mess with them. You know what I mean? You don't mess with them. They're strong. they don't screw around, and you don't do what they say and how they want it done, then get the heck out of line. There's another group coming, and we're going to make sure it's done right. You know what I mean? Like if you're not going to do it to our standards, then we'll see it. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord splits you. And so that's the same thing with us. We're different. We have various standards,
Yeah.
and if those standards aren't going to be met, we'll see you later, alligator. Like it ain't happening. Um, Maybe that's different. I don't know in your country. I don't know who owns the land. I don't know if it's the Indians. I don't know who, if they're weak or what. But us, we don't take no crap, man.
Well, the Alaska Natives were on better footing when the Gussacks came in and
Mhm.
bought Alaska from the Russians and started moving in. So it's a whole different story down here, and yeah,
Yep.
that's a whole nother discussion. But I
I
don't know.
will. I will
Go
say
ahead.
this, and I'll probably try to end with this: is that really myself personally, it's kind of a pipe dream.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gets their everybody gets all anxious and wound up over the Ambler Mining District and the Ambler Access Project, and um, but really, when you look at the real numbers and stuff like that, and you look at the timetable for the how long it takes to get permits nowadays, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You and I are going to be dead before this thing ever happens. I'm
I don't
55
know.
now. I'm 55, man. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
you
It
don't
took
look a
this
day
long.
under 30.
Uh, the Bornite's been around forever,
Yeah.
forever, and they're still only this far.
All
You know what I
right.
mean? And like I said, you've got Arctic and you got Bornite. You still need another Arctic and another Bornite to even consider, building that doggone road. Now,
Okay.
these mining companies like Trilogy and South, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're business people, man. There ain't no way in the world that they're going to pay the tolls on $1 billion road if they don't have that for sure, in the ground. They're
Right.
just not going to do it. Their shareholders won't let them do it.
Right.
And so to get it took so long to get the permits for these two, for Arctic and Bornite, and it's going to take a long, long time to get the permits for these two. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And like I said, they're not even a twinkle in anybody's eye yet. Like we don't have any names. There's no place yet.
Yeah.
So,
Well, listening to all that and hearing your perspective certainly has soothed my own emotional reaction to just hearing about this and reading about it. Um,
mhm.
so that's been helpful, and I really do hope that if it does ever go through, that it is as successful as the Red Dog Mine has been.
Mhm.
Um, so that's
Yeah, we do too.
yeah,
Yep, and you never know. There's a big there's some folks who are against the Ambler Access Project. There's some
yeah,
folks who are against the Ambler Mining District. Those are two different animals, right? The road and the mine. They're two different animals. Each of them have their challenges. Each of them have their questions.
right.
And Ivan, we have more questions now that are unanswered, more questions now that are unanswered, um, before an educated decision by Ambler Metals and by Nan and by Doyon can take place yet. None of us can say, Nana can't say yes yet. There's no thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
Doyon hasn't put a thumbs up. K Corp hasn't put a thumbs up. Why? Because there are so many unanswered questions.
All right.
So many.
Well, that's really good. I mean, you guys really are you're where the buck stops when it comes to the stewardship of the land out there,
Mhm.
because um, the national land, the national park, the BLM land, you know, our current government, if they could, they would just blow it wide open and let all their friends take a deep dig into our our land, our resources. So I really appreciate that you guys out there are have as much power as you do. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's great, and I'm glad that you're wielding it the way you are.
Yeah.
All right, that was Lance Kramer. He's definitely more on the optimistic side when it comes to the road. Hopefully, he painted a good picture and you can get an idea of what life is really like and how the road is supposed to work. Now we're going to shift over to Dempsey Woods. He's an Inupiaq hunter out of Shungnak, and he is more against and opposed to the road. He's got some really interesting stuff to say. I think you're going to like that. And then we're going to Jim Dow, who's a wildlife biologist, been a wildlife biologist for the state of Alaska, has been studying caribou for decades. He's got some really wild stuff about the caribou, so stay tuned for that. All right. Dempsey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time.
No problem.
It's good to meet you.
It's good to meet you.
So Lance told me that you may have a little bit different opinion than him on when it comes to the Ambler Road, and he said I should reach out to you to get a full idea of how people are feeling. And so that's what this is about, because I'm curious. I'm a big proponent of public lands and wild places and keeping them contiguous if possible and as intact as possible. And he said you were a man of the land, and I thought that's fitting. So so thanks again. And are you in Shungnak?
Yes, I am in Shungnak right now.
Okay. And how long have you been living there?
Most of my whole life, but I was in the Army 22 years, so I was full-time. I moved out in 94.
Okay.
And then I retired 2009, lived in Caribou a little while longer, and then like 3 years ago, I came back up to Shungnak.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, no problem.
I got a question. Is that a picture of an umiak on the back wall there?
Yeah, on the that looks like a skin boat, and then it's a skin boat for the coast, and look like caribou skins hanging on the bottom.
That's cool. Those are pretty neat.
Yeah.
So let's dive right in. Why is the subject of the Ambler Road important to you? Like, what do you see that you or your village stands to gain or lose?
Well, one thing, ever since I heard about they were going to build a road, I was against it in the first place. See, I'm not in any, I don't hold no political chair or nothing. My voice could only be heard, but it seemed like this town already voted,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't really have a whole city, like a whole community meeting and say, this is what's happening, this is what we can do. That didn't happen. They just had their own little IRA related members in there approving this,
So they didn't include the community of Shungnak as a whole.
Yeah, it's a tribal government based place. Yeah.
I mean, what does it mean to you personally that the road does not get built? Like, what is that? Why?
I've seen the destruction mining that's not only here in Alaska, but in the other countries. We see, people see it's right in my backyard back here. Bornite is back here. And then you're going to get a 200-mile road there. And you're just going to build a big hole. You're going to have to use chemicals and stuff to get the ore out and stuff. And a lot of drainages go to this river here in Kobuk. And it's not going to affect us. It's going to affect this whole river that leads down to the Kotzebue Sound. And and then what will happen, they build the road, they take all the ore out, what's going to happen next? You're going to have more people come up here. The rich guy going to put fuel stations. You're going to have lodges, and we'll just be another town that's just in the midst of all the mining and stuff. People here really don't know what they're agreeing on. They're not thinking. They think the easy money going to come. They're going to have a road now. Price is going to go down. They'll be able to drive to Anchorage, Fairbanks. That's not going to happen. They're going to, what's going to really happen is we already have a lot of outside influences here. It's going to get worse. And then, our land will just be, there's got to be a different way to get that.
Mm-hmm.
If there was, for me personally, if there was to be a road, if they really want a road, why don't they just make one that, that real environmentally safe from here down to the deep water port down in Kotzebue, and have the whole village, the whole Nana region work, and they run the place, instead of hook up with the rest of the world. Biden did right when he went against that. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want to see destruction and just for money. That's not right. That the people that took over these high seats and just approve anything, without a care of the land. See, I'm a traditional hunter. I'm a subsistent guy. I know I've seen the rest of the world. I've been all over. I've been to Kuwait, Budapest, Hungary. I've been to Ireland, Germany. But we've seen those mines and the destruction it does. And alas, our area is the last really untouched place. I think we should just keep it that way. They all say it's for the future kids. The kids that are now going to get. They don't know what it's going to mean to them right now. Just why not? They just leave. There's a different way than mining. Mining, I'm glad they just didn't do the pebble mine either. That place would go to that. They would never live and eat the way they do anymore if that happened. I'm glad they beat that one. But we need to be heard. They said they approve anything. I don't know if they went through the environmentalists. Ada came up here and they had a meeting. We did so many percent checking on each creeks. They just only talk about 3 creeks or rivers. What about the rest of the 200 of them that they're going to see along the line, and the lakes and the estuaries that the animals use, And this year we're finally getting caribou in. We used to not get them for a while. They, in the 80s, they would just go right through here. But this year they're finally starting to show up, during the season they're supposed to show up.
So they're coming back. Yeah, I mean, what have you noticed? I was just speaking with Jim Dow, the wildlife biologist, or he was the wildlife biologist out in Kotz, and he was talking about the up to 75% decrease in the Western Arctic caribou herd since he started studying them. And what have you noticed?
Yeah, it went down dramatically. But this mining is just going to kill everything off. Everybody, what they have them thinking here is they'll start having easy money. All the prices will go down. Fuel prices will go down. They need to see what's going on right now in the world. The prices will never go down after you see what's going on with Iran and all that. See, I was deployed before. I seen all that over there. People is blind from, they don't know, they don't see it.
How do other people in the community of Shungnak or Ambler or Kobuk feel about the road? I mean, what do you think is the consensus? More for or against it?
It's a poor thing, people here, it's not only here, but a lot of parts of the state, they're so used to that, that Quest card, SNAP, anything coming free, and hardly anybody want to work anymore. They say this road going to create a lot of jobs and stuff. Still, we have people announcing jobs here, and nobody's lining up, filling them up right now. They just want that easy money. See, what we've been trying to do, like people like me, there's a few others here in town. We've been trying to keep our Inupiat language, try to keep them out there in the country, learn how to get food and stuff and survive that way. They've been doing it since millennia here, and now they think they're going to have an easy life because they're going to sell off their land and get rid of all their gold and they get money. It's not, we're not going to get anything out of it.
I mean, when have the miners ever gotten rich off of mines? They've gotten temporarily better off.
The miners don't get rich. The guy with the big money that's going to put the money on it, he gets rich. He doesn't care. He's got everything.
The word value keeps coming up in my mind, and I feel like it's sort of a widespread term that gets associated with public land and land in general, water. And I feel like that is a white ethnocentric way of looking at it. And I wonder, what do you and your traditional people, how do you think of your connection to the land? Is it value-based, or is it more of an intrinsic relationship?
A lot of the life here, it's been all off the land. You got to get the berries, you got to fish at a certain time, you got to hunt, you got to do this, get ready for the winter, that kind of life. See, but everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody is like this now up here, and then our language and everything, seem like the way I see it here in Shungnak, they don't really care what's happening to the land, just so they get money to pay for their bills. That's what they think is going to happen. See, we don't have community meetings to tell them what's going on. They just agree to anything. They just sit on the bleachers and listen and just say yes, no, yes, and that's about it. I mean, people need to learn their rights here. That's why we need to get people like you talking more to people, make them understand what's really going to happen. We got good people like Bruce Eaton and a few other people in Cots that they know what's going to happen here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would think that, given what I learned from talking to Jim about the impact that just the Red Dog mine had on the caribou migration, and then we talked a little bit about the possible impact that the Ambler Road would have, and it seems like it would have a pretty adverse impact on your ability to sustain yourself via subsistence hunting and fishing.
Yeah, of course, we need money and stuff to buy the gas and our shells and stuff like that. But it's still doable. It's just not a whole lot of people really doing that. I mean, a long time ago down here, our beach, you'd have a lot of fish racks up. All of them had smoke going, and everybody's hunting, fishing, getting ready for all the seasons. Here nowadays, you got maybe only one or two fish racks that are still doing that. We got a losing weight of the Inupiat life how we used to have here in Chungnak when it was first established.
So fewer people. I mean, it seems to me like that would be a sort of a no-brainer way to combat the high prices that you do pay for, groceries that come from the outside. Not to mention, I mean, fuel. You need fuel.
Yeah. The only way we get it is if they fly it in from Fairbanks or the barge come up. It'd be help with yeah, I could understand helping with fuel and stuff, all right, but seems like there would be a better way of doing this instead of destroying
Well,
your and way of life just for money.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the questions that comes up is, will the road remain strictly commercial and industrial? How long will it be before they start to open it up to
They always say that. They always say that.
outsiders?
They always promise this, promise that, but as soon as all the ore is gone, they just give it all back, and everybody will just do anything with it. It always happens that way.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see them taking the road out when they're done.
No, it's just going to be open to everybody, the public. You'll have everybody coming up here, and then after this is gone, and then they'll try to find another area destroy. Alaska is the last. They call it the last frontier for a reason.
Yeah.
At the last, lot of the people see. People can say anything about Biden and stuff, but what I like about him is not opening no mining anymore, closing everything down, keeping it the way it is. Let's work this away with the other areas we already destroyed. That was his thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. My inner bunny hugger agrees completely with that. I mean, I know that we are locked in, especially in the rest of the world. We are locked into right now a lifestyle that is dependent on minerals, oil and gas, heavy metals and such. But you don't hear anybody ever talking about the fact that, maybe consumption is the real problem, and, reducing our consumption. I mean, there's no reason that the iPhone that is hundreds of dollars can't last a guy 8-10 years. This planned obsolescence. I mean, there's these things take up an enormous amount of resources alone.
But if a person, all he wants is money, and he doesn't care if he destroys a land that's been here a long time to change it in such a bad way that we can't get it back, that's the person we don't need here. We do not have to destroy a good land just for money. There's a lot of other ways to make money than selling your land out.
Yeah,
I know there's a lot of natives and stuff that are for the land. There's even some of my close friends are for the road, and then we're cut right there in the middle. What needs to happen is find a different way to extract that or not do it at all. I think the way everything going is what Commander-in-Chief stuff is doing right now to do whatever it want to anybody in the country, any state, that need to stop. We don't need that. We need to have a leader that for the people and only for the people in each state, not just here in Alaska. There's people up there in Maine. You got Florida. You got Texas. You got all those other states that has a lot of them had been mined out, and Alaska is this whole Brooks Range is rich with the minerals and stuff what they want, but we shouldn't have to destroy all that. There's some people that is on my side, a lot of people who love the way of life. It's just not only about subsistence. It's like going out in a country that never been mined, untouched. All you do is enjoy nature the way it should be. You shouldn't have a place where everything is all destroyed and you just surround a little area like Central Park and think that's nature. It's not. That is nature out there. Out here in my backyard. That's where their road going to be.
Yeah.
Myself, I did not approve it. It's just people, see, organizations like ADA pay somebody big money to say that, to say, okay, we'll agree, we'll go ahead and do it. That need to be investigated. We haven't had a meeting. The whole town didn't agree. I talk to people once in a while here and there. They're not for it. And there are people, I like the real humble kind of people that just keep it to themselves, that need to be heard, though. Everybody need to get into this. You shouldn't have 3 80-year-olds and a couple of young ones make decisions for a whole people. Everybody need to agree.
Well, I really appreciate hearing your insight, your sentiment on this, and I'm not sure what to say. I am in agreement personally that keeping as much land contiguously untouched by roads and mines and airstrips and everything as possible, I think is better, because like you said, it is the last spot in the U.S. that is like it, and there is some value to that. But
we can't keep that from everybody. This is America too. All Americans are welcome to come in here. It's just not come in here and mine it and leave and not help you at all. There's not going to be any cleanup.
No,
I mean,
that's the fallout from the tailings and the smelting and the processing is a whole nother issue. And until folks start to associate value with the purity of the land, then I'm not sure that we're going to turn this ship around. You have to see the value in a place in its, how should I rephrase this? The true value to humans of a place like Gates of the Arctic, Canudi, and the wider area is in the health of the overall ecosystem. I'm not wording that very well, but what I'm trying to say is that we are part of the land, and the land is part of us. And until people realize, like, you can't hurt the land without hurting yourself.
People have been living in these areas for thousands of years, not only here in the Quebec area, this whole state. They never come to one. They never come to mind of selling out anything, fish or anything. Yeah, they did the fur trading and stuff, but there was no mind about minerals and stuff. I know they didn't have the equipment and everything to do that. But it should be us, our generation, do that. It's not up to us. We don't know when this earth is going to last be used. We're not the last ones. Everybody's thinking, we got to do that. Let's sell out now. That way they can't. We got to. If they say they're thinking about the future kids, they need to just leave it alone and put somebody in there that will take care of the land. Few of our mountains will be missing back there because you'll have a 10-mile hole that's how many feet down,
Right.
Yeah.
What is that worth?
Nothing. And then everything will gone. The money will be gone, and everything will just be left. Nothing. And we'll try to survive with what we got left. Let's go over here where we never destroy it, but it'll be too late.
Well, it sounds to me like the combination of climate change, and then when you add in something like the mining district and the Ambler Road, because you don't know how many mines are going to get built. There's like 1,500 mining claims up there. When you add that together, the chances of the fish and the wildlife being thriving is slim to none. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you look at the fish in the Yukon is down, the caribou and the moose are down, and this just seems like a bad time to do it.
Yeah. All these mountains down here, all the way down to the coast here, and all the way up past Noyatuk, those big lakes and stuff. It's all rich. That road is going to come and destroy all of those, and it will just be once a beautiful land. I know it's going to end up like that.
I hope not. I'm fighting. I'm.
If they win,
If
but we
they
got a chance of stopping.
Yeah, I mean, the more I hear about it, the more I read about it, it really seems like it's a bad deal, and ultimately it's not really going to bring all that many jobs. If it does, it'll be temporary, last 10, 15 years, and then you're going to be left with the destruction afterwards.
It's just the Ambler metals, they'll take off with all money. They call it the Ambler mine, and the village down here is called Ambler. And they think they're going to own the mine. They think they're going to have easy money checks coming. They think that's theirs. It's just a name. They still haven't got that through their head yet.
They're just uninformed about the reality of where this money is actually going to flow.
They think they're getting it. That's the thinking they got. It's going to go to some foreign country, like you said.
Well, I will keep continuing to be an advocate against further incursions into all of our public lands as best as I can. Certainly there are instances where, for better or for worse, it's going to happen, and sometimes it needs to happen. But again, I just get back to the refrain of if we could get into a frame of mind where we were talking about less, not more, less consumption, because it all boils down to consumption to me, and just a thought. So we'll leave that subject at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway.
Well, Dempsey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sitting down with me and answering some questions. And, at some point, I almost did the Kobuk River. That was what I was going to do, is do the Kobuk. But
that's where the mining going to be. You should have come here instead.
Well, it's going to cross the John and the Koyukuk as well. And so
land into one of the lakes, and then you float down for a while. My camp is like, I don't know how many miles in the lake. You camp out there for a while. You don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna do that. But then I realized I could just fly to Anatuvik Pass and still see the corridor that the road is gonna go through. So I wanted to go see it before any. Hold on, hey Sven. Yeah. Anyways, I gotta go. I got my hands full. Stay in touch. I hope to meet you in person someday.
All right, Ivan.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Yep. Bye.
All right, that does it for Dempsey Woods. Pretty interesting guy. Always love talking to people who live in the actual bush. Now we're going to get to a few clips of my interview with Jim Dow, a former wildlife biologist with the state of Alaska. He's been out in northwestern Alaska most of his life, studying the caribou herds out there and the migration. He's got some really interesting things to say, so stick around for that. Also, I'm going to have all three of these guys back on the podcast. And, well, I already had the interviews. We talked about bear safety and what you actually should do when you're camping in bear country. There's a lot of misinformation out there, so you're going to want to subscribe and stick around for that. That should be coming out sometime after this one. Also, Jim Dow's interview is going to be aired fully on probably the next episode, since it was such a long and meaningful conversation. There's just a lot of meat there. I hate to just chop it up and shorten it down. So, all right, without any further ado, Jim Dow. Jim, thanks for joining me today, and welcome to my little podcast YouTube channel, Days on the Land. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me on, Ivan. So every time you got to a river crossing, people were putting in rafts and canoes and jet boats. All these rivers become extensions of the road system.
Right.
And I think there is going to be tremendous pressure on industry and the state to open the Ambler Road once it's established. You can't say that, well, they're getting past Red Dog just fine. This is going to be orders of magnitude bigger and busier than the Red Dog Road. And so they don't just lose the habitat, within, 30 miles either side of the road. They lose access to all the range on the other side of the road.
Right.
He says, we're really concerned because culverts stop fish migrations. Even a normal Yukon king run, the last I knew, even subsistence users can't harvest kings out of the Yukon anymore. And there's never a good time to fragment caribou range, but this is the absolute worst time to do that for the Western Arctic herd. But also, what the climatologists are saying, what they're finding out, is one of the best ways to combat climate change is to leave intact natural habitats intact and natural. If I was an indigenous person, in Northwest Alaska, I would be terrified and I would be infuriated.
Yeah.
Because for these people, it's not just, we want caribou in our freezer. This is a fundamental aspect of their culture. This is what they've done for millennia. This is what they pride themselves on.
Yeah.
And if I was, a politician in Alaska, I'd be thinking, really, what's rare in Alaska are big spaces where you can have a herd of 500,000 caribou, or you've got enough moose, to support functional subsistence economies. Worldwide, subsistence cultures are disappearing for this exact reason. In Brazil, it's because of deforestation for agriculture. In other countries, it's industrialization. But regardless of the cause, well, think about the lower 48. How many truly subsistence villages do you have in Colorado or in New Jersey or in
Zero.
Maine? You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, it's
So we
impossible.
know where this leads. It's very clear. We've got, over 100 years of experience, and yet our politicians can think about nothing except we need the Ambler Road.
All right, everybody, thanks for listening or watching. I really appreciate it. And remember to get out there and get out on your land. And stay tuned for upcoming news, paddling news, outdoor news, and always some amateur outdoor dipshittery, 100% AI free.